Up until now, our HTML table has been very basic. We've only had borders, and that's about it. Let's go a bit more advanced, seeing as now that we know some CSS. Let's see if we can build this. So we're going to transform our menu, our current menu, to look like something like this. This is just one of the sections, and we're going to repeat this section for each item, like for food, pasta, pizza, and so on. And I'm pretty sure you should be able to do this. I'm going to help you through it, so don't panic. I've got another image on the side that gives us all the dimensions, there we go. Let's start, there we go, computer's a bit slow. So let's start with the header, with food. So first things first, we are going to remove the main headers, dish, description, and price. We don't need those anymore. We can remove the col span from the th as well, because it's going to be there's only one column now. And we can also remove the col group. That's good. Let's save that. And yeah, our table will look a bit wonky until we make some updates, but that's fine for now. So food, and let's go to okay. Let's remove the borders from, let's update the border to only be on th and not on the table. Okay, that's good. And we can remove the main header class. So we can create a new class, so we need to set the background color. And create a class and call it menu section. And we can start off with, let's start off with the font, or the font size. So the font size is, let's go on to the side here, 26 pixels. Save that. We haven't applied the CSS last yet, so nothing happened as expected. There we go. So now our header is quite larger. One thing that's different is we haven't set our font family. So if you open up DevTools, I'm gonna zoom in here a bit. You can see. Might have to move it over a bit. Over here. So if you go into food and we go to computed, you scroll down. So currently it's rendering Times New Roman by default. I think this is browser specific and also operating system specific. So if you're following this tutorial on a Mac, your font might be different than mine because I'm on Windows PC. And if you're on Linux, you might also have a different font being rendered. So let me move this over back here. There we go. So I can close this. So the font that we are using is Roberto, and fonts.google.com. Let's head over there and download or get the code for Roberto. So it's the first one that pops up, and we can click on it. I'm going to move this to the side again so that you can see. So the the weight that we want is regular, it's the 400. Select that one by clicking on select, and then scroll down to bold, the 700, and say select the style. Then what you want to do is use on web, go to that tab, and should be no copy button. So let's just select that and say Control C or Command C, and then if you go back to your HTML file, we can add it at the top. Just paste it there. Let me move this back in. Great. Let's go back to the menu. So currently it's still using the Times New Roman font. Let's also need to set the actual font. Go to font family section, copy that, and we can go over to our HTML file, and under menu section, the menu section class, we can paste that. Save, and let's go back to our, there we go. So our font is now updated. So if you right click and say inspect, and if you go to computed, scroll all the way down, you should see Roboto being rendered. That's what we want. Great. So let's continue. So we have Roboto font weight is bold, so we need to set that as well by setting font weight, and that is, we can just use bold for now, or if you want you can use 700. So bold usually refers to 700, and you can also see that at the top here we selected regular, which is 400, and 700, which was bold. So we say save, we save that. Yep. So currently we only have the Roboto font imported. So we say Roboto. When we want to specify the font family, we specify Roboto, and you'll see we still have sans serif specified here. So you can specify multiple font families, and it says specifies a prioritized list of font families names or generic family names. A user agent iterates through the list of family names until it matches an available font that contains a glyph for the character to be rendered. So if this font Roboto can't be downloaded, it's going to go down the line and say please use sans serif as an alternative if it can't find the Roboto font, either by downloading it over the network when the page loads, or if it might be an installed local font. Let's continue. So we have set the font size, font family, and font weight. Great. We need the background color, and I realize now I did not add the background color to this image. So let me open up the Figma file. So I'm just going to paste the code, and you can just copy the code. Ooh, keyboard is going on its own there. Background. So the way we specify a background color is by using the CSS attribute of background-color, and we can paste that, and we just need to add a hash in front of it, the hash symbol, and say save. Background color should be set on your page. Great. What else do we need to do? We need to also specify, so currently the padding, okay, let's set the text. So currently the text is black, where the reference image is white, the text. So we can say text. No, not text color, just color. Can't remember. And then the white is 6. And next thing, we need to specify the spacing between the text and the border. So in this instance, I've specified here that the padding top and padding bottom is 14 pixels. And if you're unsure what padding is, padding is the space between the border of an element and the content of the element. In this example, the padding is the blank space above and below on the sides of the food text between the black border. So it's this blank space, those red arrows indicating at the top, at the bottom, and on the sides. So the way we set that is by using padding dash top, get specify 14 pixels, and padding dash bottom 14 pixels, and git save. And now you would see the height of the column increased, so the spacing became more. One thing I've noticed is our border isn't the same width. Currently our border is set to 1 pixel, but this border should be 2 pixels. So let's fix that. So in the code, we can specify that by putting 1 pixel to 2 pixels. And now that should be, I'm going to zoom in again, make it more easier to read. Another thing that's different is our border is square currently. The edges are square, but the reference image, the border has a curve, or it's rounded. The way we achieve that is to specify the border radius property. So let's specify that. Border dash. The way you specify that is border radius So the way you specify it is by using border and then dash, and then if you want to specify the top, which we want to do, you say top, and then you have to specify left or right. So let's start with the left. So that's the border top left radius. So it's the top left corner, and that we're going to set to 26 pixels. And we can copy that and update this just to be right. And you can save. And there we go. Our borders are now round. Note that we did not specify the bottom borders. If we specified the bottom borders to be round as well, these would not have been square. And we want it to look like the reference image. Great. I think that's all correct now. Let's move on to the content. So let's move on to the actual individual items. Marinated olives. Let's go down. So as I said earlier, we're only going to have one column currently on the new layout. So let's select that column and make a new row, paste it in there, cut the price and move that in its own row like that, and save. So now they should be rendered below each other. Marinated olives, rosemary, orange and chili, and $6. So for the rest of the items, I'm going to comment them out just for a moment, just so that they don't so that we can ignore them for a moment. There we go. So the way I commented out, I selected the code that I wanted to comment out, and then while the text is selected, I hold down Control and I use the / button. That's the key, right? Usually on my keyboard it's the same key as on the question mark. And then it comments that code out for us. So the code is still in our HTML page, but because it's commented out, it's got this special tag in front of it. The browser does not render it. If you view the source of your code inside the browser, you would still see that code there as well. So sometimes people add that as, see, there's other comments already. See, it's commented out, but it's still on the actual page. Great. Let's move on. Marinated olives. So let's see what font does that use. So that font uses a different font, the marinated olives, the header, and that uses Alpha Slab 1. That's also available on Google Fonts. So let's go up here and search for it. Go back. Say Alpha, no, not like that, otherwise you won't find it. ALFA, Alpha Slab 1. There you go. So click on that one. There's only one font weight, which is regular, and select that style. That should update, let's see. It should update the existing, or did it add a new one? It added a, let's copy this whole section again. And let's go and update the one that we already have. So let's remove all three of these links and paste what we just copied. Let's investigate. So yes, it downloads the Alpha Slab 1 family. Let's see if it does, and it does Roboto with the same request. Okay, that's fine. And we also need to do this part, Roboto, this one, font family. And this is a cursive font family, so you'll see the difference now. Let's create a new class. We can call this menu item name, so the name of the menu item, and we can paste what we copied. So it says font family, and it is Alpha Slab 1, and if it can't find that, we want a generic cursive font to render. And let's copy the class and add it to our marinated olives option, and go back to our actual file. Great, font is being rendered. We can make sure, go to right click and inspect, and if you go to computed, scroll all the way down, Alpha Slab 1, yes, it's correct, that font is being rendered. Great. So let's move, and we also need to specify the font size, 22 pixels. So I'm not going to specify the font weight, because by default your browser does, the element we are using, which is a TD, the font weight is regular, so I'm not going to specify that. But if you want, you can be explicit and say font weight and then 400. Great. One thing we need to do is we need to center align our text, but we are going to center align it on all the elements, so we can create a generic or selector and target all TD elements and say text align center. Then this should move everything to the center of our page or our row. Great. Let's update the padding between marinated olives and the top header, and that is 24 pixels. Menu item name, we can add padding top 24 pixels. Save that. See how it moves down. More space was created for us. Let's move on to Rosemary, Orange, and Chili. I think the only difference on this one is the font family. It's regular and the font size is 16 pixels. That's great. Let's see what the price is. That's also 24. Okay. Let's move on to dot menu item ingredients. Let's see if I spelled ingredients correctly. I did. Do I get a prize? I don't think so. Anyway, font family Roboto, because it's using Roboto, same font. Paste that, save, and we did not set the class on the element. paste, save, great. The font is being set. But we now copied and pasted. We have the same line. We're using the same attribute on line 44 as on line 28. We can be more generic of our fonts. All the content on the page currently is using Roboto, except for the dish name, which is using Alpha Slab 1. So what we can do is we can specify the font family on the body element, and that will, all other elements will then inherit that font by default. So we can take that out, and over there, check that out. And remember, body, that's targeting the body element, and we do have a body element, which is this element. So everything inside the body element now has that font. Let's save. Let's see if that actually works. Great. Our price updated, and our menu, header at the top also updated. Great. So let's set the font size of the ingredient. That is 16 pixels. Great. I think that might be the default that the browser was rendering. And we need to update the color. So the color is the same color as the background color. No, I did not say change. Color, and we paste it without dash. Save. Rosemary, orange, and chili. And oh no, sorry, this should be on the price, not on the ingredients. So let's update the, add a new class, menu item price. Paste that, copy that, and add it on the class price. There we go. The font size we need to set as well. So the font, so yes, it's using Roboto and it's using font weight is black. So it's the darkest, it's the heaviest weight that we have. And the font size is 24. So let's update the font size, 24 pixels, and font weight is, so we can't say black here. That's a generic term. We have bold, bolder, so it specifies the weight of the face bolder than the inherited value. We don't want that. We want to be 900. There we go. Great. It's 900. That's working. Next thing, let's add the border. So we have this separator between each element or each menu item. I'm going to show you how to do this. So we can, instead of creating a second row, we can attach, so what we can do is we can do this. Border bottom 1 pixel, I think that's dashed. And it is black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. One problem with this is spanning the entire width of the column. So it does not end in line like with the marinated olives. It goes all the way. So ideally what we want to do is we want to set the padding on our columns to always be this, like the amount of space that marinated olives is from the border, or even the shaved fennel salad, how far that is from the borders. So I think we have the padding. I did not add it. Let's see. We can guess. Let's guess that size. Let's go for, so the top one was 20, what was padding top? 24 pixels. Let's double that to 48 pixels. And So let's update. We can add this on all the TDs. Padding dash left, 48 pixels, and add it to the right, 48 pixels. So still that didn't make any difference to our code, but you'll see, should see the difference in a moment. So we're going to target a special selector or pseudo element, and that's going to be after. What that does is it says represent a stylable child pseudo element immediately after the originated element's actual content. So we can say after, we can move the border to that element, and if you save, you're probably not going to see anything. Still going to have set something. I think we then need to specify to be display block, and we also have to specify a content for it, otherwise you can't see it. So you can specify content and have an empty space. There we go. I think whatever we put in here is going to appear in the actual DOM. There we go, test. But we don't want that, we just want a blank space. So what this is doing, if we inspect element, so let's see what a normal TD looks like without the after pseudo selector. It renders just as TD. TR, TD, nothing fancy. On this one though, we have the TD, we have the content, which is the price, and then we have this new selector that's added for us, or this new element that says colon after. And here's our CSS. The border we specified, we made a display block, so if you don't make display block, you're not going to see it. Content needs to be something, otherwise it's not going to render. So in our instance, we just added a empty space and it renders. Because it's block, it's going to go the full width. I think if we say inline, it's not going to be very, yeah. So yeah, you can't see it when it's inline because there's no, if we add T, then you're probably going to see it. There we go. And it's then inline, so it's inline with your element. We don't want this one to be inline. We want this one to be below on the next line. So that's why it's a block element. That's a quick intro to block and inline. Not very thorough, but I'll handle that in a future tutorial for you. So we now have the border at the bottom, but I think it's a bit too close. We can add some spacing. So we should be able to add some padding top on this element, and let's go with 6 pixels. Should move down a bit. There we go. So it moved down a bit. And one other thing we need to do is our background color is not set. So I copied the background color from my Figma file. I'm going to paste it in, so you can just copy the code, what I'm going to type. So we need to specify the background color, and we can add it on all our TD elements. Background, if I can type correctly. We need to add the hash again, and hit save. There we go. But now we have another problem. We have these white lines between each row. So that's a default border spacing a table applies for us by default, the browser applies. So on table, border spacing, and we say 0 pixels. Yeah, there it goes away. Great. So now we don't have those white lines anymore. And let's add the second item back in. So this is going to be this one. I'm going to select that, cut that out and put it on a new line. And then I'm going to move each one of these into a new row. Like so. And it's going to render horribly because I did not add the classes. So let's do the first one is menu item name, menu item ingredients, next one, and then menu item price, sorry. Save that. There we go. That looks great. So pause the video and see if you can do all the remainder items up until, so only do until before you get to the pasta section. So only do all the food items and then unpause the video, and then you can watch me do it very slowly, and I will show you then how we can create another table specifically for the pasta, pizza, sweets and tea sections. Save that. And zoom out again. Oh, wrong window. One thing that I noticed that I forgot is we need to add the border on the entire row or the entire table. So if we go to TDs, we want to also add border dash left. These are 2 pixels, solid. It's black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Copy that, paste it, and do right. Save. There we go. Nice. That looks good. Let's update. Well, what we also need to do is specify the footer. So we have this image at the bottom. Let's do that next. So let's collapse our tbody and let's use our first tfoot and do a tr, and then we can do a th for this. Doesn't really matter, we can use a td for this. We will then just have to update our selector over here to be very specific, to be tbody and then the td. So nothing will render currently there. So let's add a class, call that menu item, no, just menu section footer. Great, let's create the class menu section footer. Let's start by setting the height of the row or the footer. The height is, we can look at this image at the bottom. Oops. Let's go back to the, there we go. So it's, it wants to move. Just move it up here a bit. 90 pixels. Cool. Set that to 90 pixels. And I have the, let's see, I think, just find that image. I will link to this image in the video description so that you can download it. I'm just moving it into the project folder, and so it's called footer_fill, and it's in the root directory. So this is going to be our first usage of a background, or as an image as a background. So we can set that, we can use that image as the background by setting background image, and then we can use URL, and this is the path to the image. So that because this is a local image, we will use the syntax /footer fill.png. Let's save that. Let me just move this down again. There we go. So currently the image is repeating on the x-axis. So horizontally, it's repeating a second time there. We don't want that. What we can do is we can tell our background image to not repeat at all. You can set that with the background repeat, and then we can say no repeat. If we save that, the image is only going to render once. But now we have this white space over here, which is not great. We can fix that by setting the background size. And we have two options here. We can use cover, so that will try and cover the whole image in the space, or we can use, forgot what the other one is, cover and contain, and save that. So contain doesn't work in this instance because what that does is it always tries to contain the entire image inside the allocated space. So in our instance, we want to use cover. So it says it scales the image while preserving its aspect ratio. Okay. So we have our image filling all the way, but just move this down. I think it might be in the way. But our border is not round, our borders are square. So let's fix that. So we need, see if you can set the border radius like we did on the top border of this element. Remember, we set it on the main, where did we set that? On the th. See if you can look at that code and see if you can set it for the bottom footer. Pause the video and see if you can do that. If you get stuck, unpause and I can show you how to do that. So the way we set that is with border radius. So border bottom radius, left radius first. I think that was 26 pixels. Let's go and have a look. Yes, it is. And do the same for border bottom right. Oops, bottom. Can't spell. Right radius. That's 26 pixels. Let's save that. And now we have a nice round border. Or the edges are curved, corners, whatever you want to call that. But we still don't have the black border coming on our reference image. The black border is coming down all the way. So we also need to give it a border. So we can say border left 2 pixels. Remember, it's 2 pixels, solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Border right. Here we go. Great. We also need the border bottom. 20 pixels, 2 pixels, please. Save that. There we go. Now we have, let's see if I can zoom in here. Now we have the border at the bottom. Great. We are setting the border left, border right, and border bottom. We can use the shorthand to set the border. So that this will set the border on all the sides. I'll show you. Save that. Then we're going to get a border at the top as well. We don't want the border at the top, so we can at least this code some way. Border top, we can just say 0, or we can say none. One thing that is different from our reference image versus what we have that's implemented is we have this padding at the bottom, which is 84 pixels, that we have to add as well. So we can add that to our footer. So our footer will always have that much spacing above the last element of the menu section. I don't like setting the padding inside the footer. That's more of a margin thing then. So I'll rather set the padding in the last row of the body. So what we can do is we can copy this. tr table tbody tr td, and we want to do if it's the last child. Let's see if that's correct. Yeah, so table tbody tr only when the tr is the last child of the parent, and then target the td, and then we say padding bottom 84 pixels. Let's see if that works. There we go. So our last row, which is this one, now creates that spacing for us. We can inspect that, of course, to verify. So this one has table body tr last child td. So this one will not have it because it's not the last child. If we delete that tr, now this one will have it last child. So it does work. Great. So we've done the food one. Pause the video and let's scroll down first. And so pause the video and do the, which one was the next one? You just zoom out here. I think it was pasta. It's the one I left out last time. So we have food and then we have pasta. So see if you can do the pasta as the second one. And as a hint, I suggest you do pasta in its own table so that we can create a spacing between the two tables. So pause the video and unpause the video if you get stuck, or if you want to see how I do it. Great stuff. So we need to add the footer in the last one. 2 foot. Save. There we go. coming along nicely. So these two are touching each other. Let's add some more space on this. Just go back to our, okay. So my bad, my reference image only has one, but on the Figma design I had all of them, and there was a space between each of them. So let's add it. So remember, we already touched padding, but we haven't used margin yet. So the difference between margin and padding is inside a component. If you want to keep content away from its borders, from the element's borders, you use padding inside. If you want to create spacing outside of a component between other components, you use margin. I've seen a lot of devs mix this up and it creates some interesting issues. When in doubt, add a border on your element and see what's going on. And if you add a border on your element, you quickly realize you should use margin or you should use padding in the correct places. So on all tables, we want to add a margin bottom. So it works the same as padding. Padding has padding dash bottom, margin has margin dash bottom. And I think this one we can do 16 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Let's double that to 32 pixels. There we go. Let's move on to the pizza section. If you are watching this video and you have some experience, you might know that you should not use a table always for everything. Don't stress. In the next video, I'll show you how to do the same layout by using Flexbox, and then we won't use a table anymore. So if you're worried about us overusing tables, I'm going to show you a alternative way to do this, to achieve the same design. And we need to add the footer to create that last background image. Drinks, coffee, tea, tea, tea. All of them are teas, just different. Great. Let's zoom out a bit to see what this looks like. Nice. I think that looks good. In the next video, I will show you how to achieve the same layout without using tables. We'll only be using other elements and just CSS to align them.